So I thought we would be gathering today to talk about Hillary Clinton, but in fact we are going to be talking a lot about Bill De Blasio and his decision not to decide on whether he will endorse Hillary for president or not.
Are you for her now, unequivocally, or do you want to wait to see if she takes your advice on moving to a more progressive agenda?
I think like a lot of people in this country, I want to see a vision. And again, that would be true of candidates on all levels. It's time to see a clear, bold vision for progressive economic change.
You're technically not yet endorsing her.
No, not until I see, and I would say this about any candidate, till I see an actual vision of where they want to go.
Is this a real thing between them? Is this theater? Like, what's going on?
I think it's theater. I think it's, the chances of him not endorsing her are slim to none. And I think the fact that he's just, wanting to wait and see is maybe, some people can consider it to be a smart political move, sort of a tactical move, because it sort of elevates his position in the whole conversation, especially on the left, in terms of, will he, won't he? He says that he wants to hear more vision from her. I think we've all heard plenty of vision from Hillary Clinton by this point. I think it's mostly just about, making sure that he has a say, has some sort of voice in the process. The chances of him not endorsing her are zero. Eventually he'll come around and bestow his endorsement upon her. But what's the point at this point? It's so early in the game. If he can go around, he's making these trips to the Midwest, talking about his favorite subjects, income inequality and poverty. If it allows him to sort of continue to push his own agenda, while sort of maintaining this illusion, will I endorse her? Won't I endorse her? I don't know. I think that benefits him in the long run. I don't know, maybe.
I mean, in the press corps, we call it the non-endorsement, and everyone knows what you're talking about in New York City.
Yeah.
But Mayor De Blasio is extremely deliberate in everything he does. He rarely gaffes. I don't know if he's ever gaffed. So when he goes on Meet the Press and he makes this statement, he means it. And he said that it was just completely coincidental, like the Sunday morning talk show, the Midwest speaking tour, the
Right.
Gracie
That
Mansion
was all
gathered
booked
press.
before it
on
was
the
known
books,
that she was gonna be
before
out.
she announced.
And the Iowa trip was supposed to be, the fact that she was there at the same time that he was also supposed to be coincidental,
Right.
which is, read into that
Yeah,
as
they
you
went to
will.
different Chipotles, no big deal.
I think he went to Quiznos, actually.
happens.
Quiznos,
Yeah.
that's much more, 99%.
Yeah.
Right? But he knows what he's doing. And a lot of experts have told me that when he finally decides he will endorse her, and few people doubt that he will, like Andy said, that it will say more about him than it does about her.
Right. I mean, that's an interesting question, is does she actually want his endorsement
Yeah.
now? I mean, you mentioned, to some degree, waiting elevates the value of his endorsement, which is
Right.
good for him. But also, if everybody in the world endorses her on day 2, then what do you talk about for the next, I don't know.
Right.
like year
I mean,
and a
she's
half?
running unopposed. He gets to sort of, do the thing that he's doing, which is, some call it running a shadow campaign. I mean, you can speculate as to, what his own ambitions are. But, the fact that she has no challengers, there's no one running against her in this primary, means that, a lot of the things that she'll say and do will sort of remain unchallenged on the left. Mm-hmm. Obviously, she'll receive a lot of blowback and opposition from the Republicans. But, as she's going through this, this process of running for president, again, she needs somebody to sort of hold her to maybe some higher standards. And I think he sees himself as that person. If he can be, sort of the guy who wants to push her a little bit further to the left, they've got all this, personal sort of connections between them. He ran her Senate campaign until she replaced him with somebody else. And, she was at his inauguration. They obviously have a lot of ties between them. But if he can be the guy to say, talk more about inequality, talk more about, the earned income tax credit, talk more about, poverty, talk more about all these things that we need to, hear more from you about, then, he's willing to take that on, it seems.
And that's actually an interesting point, is if he becomes identified as the guy who is the standard bearer for the party's left, that could be very handy for her if someone like, I don't know, Martin O'Malley or Elizabeth Warren, or name whoever you want, does start
Bernie
to actually
Sanders.
get some traction.
Yeah.
Bill De Blasio can come in 6 months or 8 months and say, I've looked at this for a while, and actually, in fact, Hillary Clinton is the person, she represents the principles of the Democratic left, and I endorse her heartily. I mean, he might be kind of a nice trump card for her in that way.
How much is that going to mean to like everyday grassroots progressives across the nation if he's endorsing his former boss, the person whose 2000 U.S. Senate campaign he led to a victory? Wouldn't it possibly mean more in terms of progressive credentials if he endorsed, Bernie Sanders or O'Malley, Jim Webb?
Right.
I mean, Elizabeth Warren keeps saying she's not going to run. But
I mean, Bill de Blasio is not a very unpredictable person. He's very politically astute. He follows the script to the T. He doesn't let himself be dictated by sort of the whims in the press. And I think that there's some of that in this. He doesn't want the media to push him towards making an endorsement earlier than he wants to do it himself. Mm-hmm. He wants to do it on his own terms, on his own turf, under sort of his own flag. And if that means sort of dodging questions about is it a snub, is it not a snub, is it an endorsement, is it a not endorsement, he'll gladly take that on. It seems with in his own perception, I think his team's perception, with little downside to his own sort of brand as the lefty, top lefty guy in the country. Although it seems like whether or not that's him or if it's Elizabeth Warren, or even somebody like Bernie Sanders, is up for interpretation.
I wonder, in the coverage of the past week or two of this episode, has anything stuck out as particularly absurd in terms of reporting about the Hillary announcement, the de Blasio non-endorsement, anything in between?
So I don't want to necessarily call it absurd, because I would presume that I wouldn't write this or do this myself, and I'm not going to judge my colleagues too harshly.
Sells papers.
But there are video clips out of Iowa of reporters chasing the Scooby van.
Oh, God.
And the Scooby van is coming up right here, right behind our camera. Here it is. There she goes. And Secret Service following behind her. Okay, they're going around to the back, so we're not going to... You can see the media running behind me here to chase the Scooby van.
Wow.
And she's going around to the back.
And it's so amusing. And this is not to say that if I wasn't on the ground out there at that moment, I wouldn't do the same, because you get caught up, and I mean, right. You think she's going to go in the front door, and she goes in the back door, so of course you're going to chase him down. But there's dozens of cameramen and reporters sprinting around the building and to chase a van. It's not even like her necessarily.
And when they added the Benny Hill music in the background and sped it up a little bit, it was just
it's good TV. It's good TV.
It was so good. Yeah, that was pretty absurd. And then the security cam footage of her in Chipotle, and the articles about what that means, that she's going to Chipotle over another fast food place, or she didn't tip. I can't believe she didn't tip, and what
Andy tips at Chipotle.
Sure.
You got to pay for that guacamole at least. And what the server who served her, what that person made, and sort of a discussion about minimum wage. I mean, yeah, that's a valid conversation to have, but it just seemed kind of funny. I think the funniest thing I saw was somebody posted a screenshot of her at the Chipotle with the dark glasses on, and Huma was right behind her, and it said something like "presidential candidate robs a local Chipotle," because it just looked really kind of shady, the whole image. So that was ridiculous.
There was an article, I won't name the reporter or the source, but there was an article suggesting that the reason why de Blasio had not endorsed was because he, in fact, is trying to position himself to be drafted as the presidential candidate of the Democratic left.
Yes, because that's what this is all about.
Right, because this was all about. And, in terms of de Blasio getting some juice out of this, I guess that's how it could go the other way. I mean, if this becomes perceived as purely an ego trip, or about some sort of nascent White House ambition, then his effort to build up a national stature around issues, he loses that, right? I mean, is there anything at all to the presidential speculation?
I wish I knew how much he liked being asked this question, because he gets asked almost at every press availability he has, the same question different ways. His answer is always no, no, no. And I think even yesterday a colleague asked whether he's running for president, whether he wants to be asked to run for president, and whether he's positioning himself to run for president. So if you ask different ways, maybe you'll get a different answer, but so far he's been pretty...
She acknowledged afterwards that she forgot to ask whether he's running for vice president.
Oh, yes.
Which she was kicking herself for. But yeah, no, it would I think the New York political press corps would implode if Bill De Blasio decided to run for president at this stage in his career. He's a year, and a couple months into his, mayoral term. The idea of him running for president at this point is absurd. Now, would he turn his nose up at a, hashtag draft De Blasio movement? I doubt it. I'm sure that he would, take that home and kind of giggle to himself about it. But I doubt that that's the honest and legit reasons behind the things that he's doing. I think no one doubts his sincerity about wanting to fight income inequality and wanting to reduce the amount of poverty that exists. But he obviously has political ambitions as well. I think that that's yet to play out though over the next 5 or 6 to 10 years.
So Bill De Blasio may not be heading to Washington, but Hillary Clinton.
Well, he is going to Washington.
At least not permanently.
Just to do more of the stumping that he's doing.
He's going to pack a bag, an overnight bag. Hillary Clinton is coming to Brooklyn. This is where her campaign HQ will be. Why? Why Brooklyn? Why does that make sense for a national campaign? Is Brooklyn up for grabs in the presidential race in 2016?
Yeah. No, absolutely not. I mean, it's Brooklyn is about as dyed-in-the-wool blue as any other incredibly democratic counties. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot you can read into this. She wants to sort of embrace the cool factor. She wants to tap into Brooklyn's sort of stockpile of young, eager, sort of liberally minded young people who might be interested in working for her campaign. It's a hop, skip, and a jump away from Manhattan, where all the money is. So in terms of fundraising, it provides easy access to wealthy people who might be interested in donating to her campaign. But she's not going to be here at all those. Her campaign will be here, but the candidate herself, I don't think, will be here very infrequently, if at all. I mean, there's no votes to be had here. So.
I mean, if anything, that Saturday Night Live skit indicated that she wants to be more humanized. And I think they chose Brooklyn over Westchester or even Manhattan because it has this cool, hip factor. Mm-hmm. And everything that appeals in Brooklyn to a politician can be found in the De Blasio administration's bid for the 2016 Democratic National Convention. The rhetoric surrounding that was Brooklyn story is America's story. We're diverse, we're young, we're hip. And so, I mean, if that's associated with Hillary, all the better for her. But what's funny and interesting, perhaps ironic, is that she chose the most Manhattan-esque corner of Brooklyn.
We're just going to say she's paying Manhattan or higher than Manhattan prices to be in the outer borough, what used to be in the outer borough.
I mean, she was lucky to get that space as it was. I mean, there's no office space at all.
Right, you wrote about that.
I did, yeah.
This was the last
basically,
gasp of office space
as far as I could tell, I mean, their vacancy rate is almost zero. So the fact that she was able to get that, she might have ended up in Long Island City for all we know, closer to your turf. But it's funny. I talked to a lot of business owners in and around that area, and they seem to suggest, oh, it's going to be great. She's going to come in for a cup of coffee at Junior's and have these political meetings, and it's going to be so fantastic. And I had to resist the urge to say, oh, I don't really think that's going to happen, you guys. But, it's nice to think that.
What will happen? What impact will Hillary HQ being in the neighborhood have on that area, on Brooklyn? I mean, what does a presidential headquarters look like in terms of number of people? If you live next door, how will you know that Hillary 2016 is there versus, a gypsy cab company?
Protesters?
Yeah, you'll probably get a fair share of those. I don't know. I mean, yeah, it'll probably provide a bit of a boost to the local businesses around there. More lunches being delivered, more Ubers being taken, that sort of thing. But I think it helps Brooklyn's brand. I mean, you want to talk about some of the stuff that Marty Markowitz tried to get rolling, and now that Eric Adams is trying to do too, create Brooklyn into this global brand that has some sort of appeal beyond just the 5 boroughs. Is having Hillary here, I think, definitely does that, and it's a consolation prize. We didn't get the Democratic National Convention, so we got Hillary's HQ instead.
It's a good way to think about it.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, so many people write about Hillary's wardrobe. I wonder if she'll ever be wearing Brooklyn Industries or Brooklyn Zoo.
We'll have to watch
break
for
that
that,
out. Give her more street cred.
And the neighborhood Chipotles are probably on alert that
yes,
she's coming,
they are.
not bearing tips. But it's interesting because obviously, New York City politics has been sort of reoriented around a Brooklyn point since Bill De Blasio became mayor, and so now Hillary is kind of moving in. I mean, I wonder if they're going to go to the YMCA together and bang a few out, or I mean, so does this sort of her arriving here in Bill de Blasio's territory, does this amplify the question of whether he's going to back her or not? Does this, is she cutting in his territory?
I don't think so. There's plenty of room in Brooklyn. But you're right, the political center of power is slowly moving toward Brooklyn. Especially, let's say, black political power used to be in Harlem. Now it's in Brooklyn. It's more spread out in Brooklyn. We have Chuck Schumer, who's like born and raised in Brooklyn, I believe. Definitely lives there and lived there almost all his life, if not all his life. But he's poised to be the Democratic leader of the Senate, and he has Brooklyn to his name. And now there's Tish James is Brooklyn, Bill de Blasio is Brooklyn. Who is in Brooklyn?
I live in Brooklyn.
Well, that's it right there. That was the tipping point moment.
No, but I think that's a great point, and it's something to be considered. What does the borough offer besides just sort of the branding aspects to it? Obviously, it can become a place that is sort of provides a location for movers and shakers and power brokers to come and sort of make their deals. So it's definitely important.
So like the moment that Hillary Clinton announced she was running for president, or maybe even the moment before, anti-Hillary posters went up around Brooklyn, stickers. Why do people who hate Hillary hate Hillary? What is the sort of 411 on that?
She represents the establishment, power that can't be moved, privilege perhaps, which you kind of see in her response to the email scandal. Like, I'll give you the emails I think are important, but otherwise I don't need to use a work email address. I can use my own server. And I think that someone who feels like they are owed something doesn't necessarily appeal to everyone.
And why do people love her, those who admire her?
She stands on the cusp of being the first woman president of the United States, which is no small feat. That would obviously be a huge accomplishment if she was able to do that. And she's loyal, and she is loyal to her friends, I think. And I think that there's something to be said for that as well. And the fact that she doesn't sort of go too far to the left on some things. She represents this sort of center piece of the Democratic Party is important. That she's not out there calling for sort of the nationalization of banks or anything like that, as I think puts her in some perspective as well. So it's difficult to say at this point. It's because like you pointed out, it's been decades that she's been on the stage, and whether it's as Secretary of State, as a senator, as a presidential candidate, as First Lady, it's hard to get some perspective, and I would be really interested to see sort of someone to write something or to analyze it from that respects, the long history of Hillary, where she started, where she is now, sort of where all sort of the touch points have been over her career.
She has the political credentials, but she's also made herself into sort of a celebrity with that meme where she's on her BlackBerry and wearing the sunglasses. But every time she'd had a book signing, the first one in Union Square, it was packed.
Yeah, it's chaos.
People waited for hours and hours just to get her signature. I think one of the tweets of mine that's been retweeted the most is one that involved Hillary and Beyonce with the hashtag Girls Run the World or something like that. But I met this girl who said she'd only stand in line for that long to see Beyonce and Hillary Clinton.
Well, that's pretty good. So that raises the question, I guess. You mentioned gender in terms of why people admire her. How much is her gender part of why people detest her and feel threatened by her? I mean, it must be a part, yes.
It's a touchy subject, and I think she needs to be careful about it too, because every time she's criticized about something, she can't, her and her supporters can't immediately say that someone's playing a gender card or criticizing her because she's a woman. I think that's too easy, and I think Barack Obama sort of had to deal with similar things too when he was running for president. So. It's they have to be careful about it. Now, is there a sort of an anti-feminist sort of commentary out there about her? Absolutely. People who sort of Neanderthals who don't feel that a woman should be president for X, Y, and Z reasons. But that aside, it's definitely something she needs to tread lightly around. Celebrating the aspects of herself as a a prominent woman who's running for president who could stand the chance of being the first woman president, while at the same time not relying too heavily on that, because she does need to talk about the issues. She needs to talk about the economy. She needs to talk about, healthcare. She needs to talk about all these things that people care about, and that touch their lives, because those are the things that are going to get her elected, I think, in the end.
What issues, you mentioned a couple earlier, but what issues do you think that, especially given her history, I mean, it's Hillary Clinton, her husband authored the Defense of Marriage Act. She was on the Walmart board for a number of years. What are the issues where she has to come out, given the change in the electorate and sort of the political temperature of the country since she last ran, where she really has to come out first, do you think, and say, here's what I will do if I'm elected? Well, if you were running her campaign a few blocks away, where would you have her go first?
Right. Definitely income inequality. That's was very much a part of our launch video. The fact that the deck is stacked against those at the top. Immigration, for certain, especially the change in the electorate and wanting to win those Hispanic votes is very crucial. Minority votes. I want to know if she's down with TPP, the Iran nuke deal. There's so many, but I would argue that. You probably would agree that immigration, healthcare, education, and the economy are at the top.
I think diversity as a whole. She needs to embrace the diversity of the country. The country is very diverse. It's getting more diverse as and we've sort of seen the way the demographics are going. I think that that's sort of her leg up over the Republicans. If she, like her campaign video, it had this Latino family, a single mom, an African American family who's expecting their first baby, the way just a gay couple. She can really sort of bring all these people into her tent and say, this is America, this is what we represent. I don't think Republicans can credibly make that same argument. They want to sort of keep things the way that they are. So if she is, embraces immigration and income inequality and sort of the larger themes of diversity in the country, I think that could be a very successful campaign.
So, a final question. Bill de Blasio has left the door wide open. Are the three of us prepared to endorse Hillary Clinton today and make some news? No?
No.
No? Okay.
I'd like to see more of her vision.
I would too.
You can always see more vision. That's what you do with a vision. You see it. Okay, so as we tend to do here on Straight Up, we're going to put everybody on the spot by playing a little drinking game. It's a Hillary Clinton / Brooklyn drinking game.
Bring it on.
I will ask a question. You will both have a chance to answer it. And whoever's answer is worse than the other has to drink. So that's how it will work. Okay. Question number one, and we'll alternate who gets to answer first just to make it super fair. I'll start with Emily for this one. If Hillary Clinton was a drink, what drink would she be, and or what would she order if she were here with us at the Emerson?
I think she'd be a fine Merlot.
I see her more as a Bloody Mary.
Way harsh.
That's harsh. It seems sort of anti-feminist, but I'm going to say that was the better answer. It's harsh drink. So, Emily, you'll have to. Andy, what one piece of Brooklyn advice would you give Hillary Clinton?
Go to the flea market and buy something.
Wow. Well, Jay might get hired as an advisor.
I'm going to pre-drink. Is that okay?
So, yeah, we should.
Because I feel like I already lost
It's not
that
looking
one.
good. It's not looking good. Emily?
Ride the L. That's where the most missed connections is, right?
Damn, that's much better.
That's good. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well done.
I'm going to drink again.
Well, you should. If Hillary Clinton was a Brooklyn neighborhood, which neighborhood would she be and why?
She would definitely be downtown Brooklyn. She's affluent, all business, not much fun.
I'm going to one-up that and say she's Brooklyn Heights in that she is the more residential section of the neighborhood where her campaign headquarters technically is, not downtown Brooklyn.
Oh,
That's a draw, so you should both drink.
Okay.
She's not East New York.
If you had a night out with Hillary,
Don't
it's
tell Bill.
purely hypothetical, it's not an offer.
Don't tell Bill.
Where would you take her?
I'd take her to BAM, I guess. We'd maybe take in an old movie, go see, some sort of dance or something like that, whatever they do at BAM. I'm a member there, so I get discounts.
Right.
I feel like she'd be an expensive date.
So in my early 20s, I used to always go places that had drinks and free food, and I think that's what like real people do. So I don't know if it's still around, but there's Alligator Lounge.
Alligator Lounge.
Where you can get pizza
Absolutely.
with your beer. It's a good deal.
Okay.
Sometimes there's free hot dogs with your beer.
Okay, that is a way better answer. So you should drink up there with your
I'm getting slayed
take
here.
it to a dance. I would go to Coney Island, which is
He had a
still, like, the
romantic
coolest
answer.
place.
I know. Maybe that's
It
like
was romantic,
a
but that-
subconscious desire to wine.
A lot of
and dine
good
her. I
visuals
don't
in
know.
Coney Island.
Last question. We'll go to you for this. What is the one Brooklyn food establishment Hillary has to try?
Since you said Coney Island's the hot dog place, what's it called?
Nathan's.
Nathan's, yeah. Oh my God, what if she was in a hot dog eating contest? That would
July
humanize her so much.
Very patriotic. Yeah.
Oh, but then they would call her the Black Widow in the headlines.
Yeah, that's not a good idea. Yours.
Juniors, all the way.
Everyone loves cheesecake.
Everyone loves cheesecake.
Let's all drink because those answers are all equally terrible. Hillary's in Brooklyn now. It's the epicenter of hipness. We're all hip just for being here right now. What's the path to the hipster voter's heart? What does Hillary have to do?
She needs to dump that Scooby van and ride a fixie. Around.
I was going to say she needs to not care about that at all because hipsters love to not care about things. So she needs to show as little enthusiasm for winning their vote as possible, and they'll worship her for it.
Right.
Those are both
Over
excellent.
it.
Right. Your answer is slightly better, but I think in honor of it, we should just not drink
Yeah.
because that's too much effort. Yeah,
This is
just
true.
leave it. Just leave it.
Good idea.